Hi everybody, and welcome to this new episode of SageMaker Friday Season 4. This is episode number 10, right? So my name is Julian, and I'm a dev advocate focusing on AI and machine learning. And once again, please meet my co-presenter.
Thank you, Julian. Hi everyone, my name is Ségolène, and I'm a senior data scientist working with the AWS Machine Learning Solution Lab. My role is to help customers get their ML project on the right track in order to create business value as fast as possible.
Thank you again for being with us. So where are we now? So last week we started with our AutoML track. And so this is episode 2, right? So we keep exploring episode 2 of the AutoML part. In fact, we are revisiting a data set that we used in episode 2, right, on August 13th, where we built a classification model for fraud detection to detect fraud on insurance claims. Okay, so way back in August, we worked with the data set, prepared it, trained the model using SageMaker. And this week, we're going to use the same data set, but we are going to use AutoML to build models, right? And not our notebook code, just like we did previously. Okay, so you'll find the code for this episode on GitLab in this repo. Okay, so go and grab it. You can run it yourself. And if you watched last week's episode, we actually used we focused on SageMaker autopilot, right? Which is the AutoML capability part of Amazon SageMaker. And we gave you a quick glimpse at an open source library called autogluon. Okay, so this week we're going to take a quick look at autopilot again, and you'll see it's the exact same code, which is pretty cool. We're just changing the data set, but the rest of the code is really the same. And we'll spend more time on autogluon and ensembling and discussing those cool techniques. Okay, so let's take a look at autopilot first. Okay, really quickly, and our data set. Okay, so this is the insurance claim data set that we used last time around. Okay, and it's a small data set. It's only 5,000 rows. Okay, and we have mostly categorical features, okay, a few numerical features, and of course we have a label that tells us yes or no, is this fraud, right? 0, no fraud, 1, fraud. Okay, so we have this claims dataset, and then we have a customer dataset with additional information on each customer, right? Age range and what state the policy was signed in, zip code, etc., customer education, a few more things. And to join those two files, those two data sets, we use the policy ID, right, which we see here. Okay?
Perfect.
So simple data set, lots of categorical features, labels, and so we can build a binary classification model, once again, to predict yes or no, is this insurance claim fraudulent or not? Okay. So the only thing we are not doing any data prep. Again, if you watched last week's episode, you know that autopilot takes care of that, right? We looked at the data processing scripts and everything. So the only thing we want to do here, of course, is to join those two data sets. You can simply do it like this, right? Join them on the policy ID. And so that basically we have a single data set with everything, right? So we have driver information and claim information, and the label is in there as well. Okay.
And we could do it with data wrangler.
Yeah. So here, we're joining with pandas, but you could do it many different ways. You could load the data set in SageMaker Data Wrangler as two different sources and join it there. Somebody pointed that on YouTube, so thank you for for the ID, absolutely, you could do that in Wrangler. Well, you could do it anyway, right? I just like pandas, and we showed data Wrangler in detail already. So, but anyway, it's fine. At the end of the day, we have this data set. We save it to a CSV file, and we upload it to S3. Okay. So remember, you can use SageMaker Autopilot in two different ways. You can create an autopilot experiment directly in the UI, giving it a name, passing the location of your data set, and then either using the auto type, so that autopilot automatically figures out, hey, this is a binary classification problem, or you can say it is a binary classification problem, and I want to use this particular metric. Okay, and do you want to deploy the best model at the end? Yes or no? Okay, and then just click on create, and off it goes for a little while. Okay, so we've done this before. There's nothing super difficult here, and once you've done that, you end up having an AutoML job, which you can find here. Okay, so this is the one here. Okay, that I ran previously. Okay, and if you just right click and describe it, you get all the information. So obviously here it's complete. If you had just started it, you would see blinking lights for a little while and some information on what step, what phase the job is currently running. But okay, this is what we get after maybe an hour or so. We get lots of tuning jobs, and the best one, highlighted with a star, has reached an area under curve of let's say 0.69. Okay, which is quite good. Which is quite good. It's a small data set, so okay, it's promising. Okay, and that's all we've done. Okay, that's all we've done. Put the data in S3, fire up this autopilot experiment, wait for a little while, and then we have this model. And 0.69 is definitely a good start. That really tells us, yes, there is predictive power in this data, and yes, it's if a human expert, if a data scientist starts looking at this and keeps tweaking, we're gonna get much more.
He will find something.
So that's a really good way to, if you have 100 problems or 100 data sets that you need to look at, AutoML is a really easy way to fire up all those jobs and then look at the most promising ones, and obviously focus your efforts on the problems that you are most likely to solve, right? So it's a good filter. Of course, if you had 100 problems, you would not click 100 times, right? What you would do is you would fire up jobs using the SageMaker SDK, which is as simple as this. Okay, pass a role, an IAM role, which is just the SageMaker role to give permission to access S3 and so on. The name of the column that you want to predict. Okay, in our case, it's called fraud. Okay, 0 or 1, and then problem type. You could pass auto, right? So again, it could be as simple as this, right? Maybe there's a capital there.
I think
there's a capital. But okay, pretty much the same thing here, right? You never know about this. Or you can say, hey, I want binary classification, and I want to use AUC, and I want to use 250 jobs, tuning different jobs, which I think is the default. Okay, you could increase it, you could decrease it, but I forgot to mention it last week. If you start decreasing it, obviously you give fewer opportunities to autopilot for optimization, and performance tends to go down pretty rapidly. Okay, because we have 10 pipelines, so 10 different experiments or 10 different attempts at modeling and feature engineering that are running in parallel. So if you start lowering the number of candidates, you really end up having very few jobs per pipeline, and that will hurt performance, right? If you want to try and increase it, you can go, but generally, I don't think you want to set this to 2,000. I think maybe try 500, but I don't know. I wouldn't go much higher than that. Okay. All right, and then you call fit, passing the location of your data, and again, what off it goes, blinking lights and models. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. So quick summary, really, of what we've done last week. If that was too fast, please go and watch last week's episode, and you will see all this stuff in great detail.
details.
Yes. Okay. So what we'd like to show you today is point 69. That's fine. And last week we saw the candidate generation notebook that gives us access to the actual feature engineering code and training code, and we can keep tweaking, and we can actually run the experiment again. And of course, with business, with domain knowledge and data science expertise, you will start to improve this, right? But there's another way, and of course, I'm referring to autogluon. Okay, and again, just as a quick recap, if you didn't follow us last week, okay? AutoGluon is an open source project by Amazon. You can go and read the research paper. It's very readable, even for noobs like me. Really good one. You can find everything on GitHub, and this is based on MXNet and the Gluon API. And basically, we can do AutoML for tabular data, NLP, computer vision. We have lots of different algos, and we're gonna look at some of those today. And more importantly, we have those ensembling techniques. Okay, so we'll go back to ensembling in a few minutes. Let's just look at how the little code you need to write. Okay, and it's really very little code. Okay, and then we'll talk about ensembling, what those things are. Okay, so let's close this. Okay, so make sure you have MXNet installed. Here I'm using a CPU-based instance. So I'm using the CPU version of MXNet. If you have a GPU instance, you should install the GPU version of MXNet, which is called MXNet CU92, right? As far as I know. That's what the MXNet website says. Okay. So I'll trust that. Of course, we need autogluon and some widgets for progress indicators and other funny things. And we need S3FS because that's how so S3FS, as the name implies, is a way to read objects directly from S3. And this is how Gluon actually loads objects, right? Datasets. So we need that. Okay. Fine. Import pandas. Load R2 files, claim CSV, customer CSV, same as before. Join them, same as before.
Upload.
Save to CSV, upload to S3, same as before. Okay. All right. Okay, so this is how things start, right? So of course, first we need to import the dataset. Okay, and that path here is the S3 URI. Okay, so that's why we need S3FS to be installed. Okay, you could load locally, right?
Yeah,
of course. But here, since I'm using that same file for autopilot and Gluon, I put it in S3, and I'm not going to lose it. It stays there. But yeah, of course, you can load locally. Okay. Then we create a predictor. Saying, hey, my column to predict is called fraud, and the metric I want to use is ROC AUC, and there are plenty more. Okay, just go and take a look at the Gluon. There are lots of different metrics to train on, and then you just call fit. Okay. Oh yeah, this tells us models will be saved in a local path. You can customize that as well if you. We'll take a look at that later. And then you call fit, passing your training data, okay, which is really the tabular data set. Time limit, okay, here I went for 2 hours, because why not? And we'll see that Gluon allocates that time across the different algos that are used, okay? So sometimes you'll see, out of time, moving on pretty much. But yeah, it tries and allocate that time in a smart way so that you maximize chances to get good models. Presets, so that really says, okay, how are we training here? Are we going for best quality? Are we going for fast inference? Are we going for different things? Maybe we'll look at different settings in the next episodes. Okay, here I want the best quality. And we can decide to exclude some algos. So again, nothing against KNN or FastAI, just as an example. If you wanted to exclude neural networks completely because they tend to be longer to train, you could do that. Okay, and that's it. Okay, and then you just launch this thing. So what happens next? Let's look at the log. So first, problem discovery. Okay, which is a simple one here. So my problem is binary because my label value, my label column, which is fraud, only has two values, 0, 1. So it's quite likely I'm trying to...
So autogluon detects it automatically. Okay.
Detects automatically. If it's not the correct type, we could go and say, hey, no, I want to do multi-class or I want to do something else. Okay. Fine. So we map the labels to classes, and then of course we do data prep. Okay. And this is quite similar to what autopilot does. We're going to look at different columns. We're going to detect the types, right, of each column automatically. We'll get back to that in a second. It's really important that we get that right. We fill missing values. We deal with categorical features, etc. Okay. And so we see how those types were detected originally. Okay. So we see floats, ints, and a few objects because we have strings, right? Object really means string here. And so what's important is really to check this bit. Okay. Because some categorical features could be integers in the data set, right? I don't know, it could be, if you had maybe states, I don't know, Texas could be 1 and New York could be 2, and you know what I mean? And Arizona could be 3, etc. So it could be encoded like that. And so the autogluon and any other AutoML system could think, well, it is an integer value, and it's really not, okay? Because if a certain state is encoded with value 2 and another state is encoded with value 4, that second state is not twice the first state. There's no sense of scale, okay? So the problem with this is you create a sense of scale, you create an ordering relationship that's just not there. Okay, so some algos will be troubled by this, some won't, but generally you want to make sure if it's a category, it stays a category, right? So here, driver relationship, incident type, collision type, anything that says type should be really a category. And if we look at integers, number of vehicles involved, number of injuries, number of witnesses. Of course, we want to look at everything, right? And we can actually display that metadata and make sure for the data set and make sure it is actually correct. Okay, and we can fix it if we want it. Okay, so instead of saying, hey, I'll let you detect what those types are, you can force it. You can pass a schema. And I'll show you this probably in the next episode. Okay, super simple. But this is really important, okay? So I guess the lesson here is, yes, AutoML is smart. Yes, AutoML is powerful, but, there's no silver bullet. If you pass lots of floats, lots of integers, and they actually mean categories, well, either process your data to make them look like categories, maybe assign strings, or pass a schema that says, hey, these are categories, right? The other ones look okay, I think, right? And yeah, this one is a Boolean, etc., etc. Okay, so perfect. Yeah, I've noticed large increases in accuracy when moving int columns to category columns. Okay, immediately jump in accuracy just because you're helping the model figure out, oh, these are different dimensions and not some scale that continuous scale that just doesn't exist. Okay, fine. So then we process the data, and of course here it's super fast because we have a small data set. Okay, and then we start training stuff. Okay, and immediately we see stack levels, L1 and lots of L1 and bagging. And whoa. Okay, so something is happening here. Yes. So before we jump and look at numbers, we need to explain what's going on. Okay, so you used a few words that I think we need to define: boosting, bagging, stacking. And these are really different things, but we'll find all three techniques in Gluon. Okay? So let's go and try and define that. So boosting is really, and I'm going to call it an algorithm feature. Okay, so it's built in XGBoost, Light GBM, Cat Boost, etc. Right? That's what that boost thing means. Okay, so we train. So we use the same algo. So let's say we use XGBoost, and we train on the same training set, and we train a first model. Okay, and we evaluate it, and it gets some predictions right and some predictions wrong. And then we train a different model that tries to fix those mistakes. Okay, so now we have two models, and they try to complement each other, but we still have some mistakes, right? So running optimization techniques, we train a third model that tries to fix those mistakes, and maybe a fourth, and maybe a fifth, etc., etc. So in the end, we have a sequence of models that are all trained together in the same training jobs and optimized together, that end up being very efficient because they just fix each other's mistakes. Okay, and when you predict with all those models, and that was one of the big advantages of XGBoost when it came out. It kind of did this very, very well. Okay, so again, different algos do that. So it's kind of built in. There's nothing to do, right? If you use XGBoost, it's going to use boosting. Right? So don't need to do much. I guess you can control the number of trees you wanna build and some crazy hyperparameters, but it's gonna do that. Okay. Now, bagging is different. So bagging, we train different models, usually with the same algo. So let's say we run 10 XGBoost training jobs. Okay. And of course, we train them on the same problem. So we start from the same data set. But instead of training on the exact same data set, we split that data set into, let's say, 10 chunks. Okay, so let's say we take 9 for training, 1 for validation. Okay, and we use different chunks for each training job. Okay, so now we have 10 models that are trained on a different subset and evaluated on a different subset of our initial data set. Okay, and we combine their predictions. And one technique is a weighted average, but there are others. Okay, so it's really different from the previous one, right? Boosting is really one training job building a sequence of related trees. Okay, here we have, let's say, 10 training jobs, 10 different models trained on different subsets, and we combine them explicitly at the end. And this is known to improve predictions. Okay. And the last technique is stacking. Okay, and it's exactly what the name says, and it's even crazier. So here we take independent models. So let's say we take our best XGBoost model, our best Cat Boost model, and our best neural network model, train on a subset of the same data set, right? And we combine them. Okay, so you cherry pick your models, and they predict in parallel. Okay, and you use the output, so you use the predictions from those different models as the input to train another model, right? And I'm going to call it meta model, but I hate the word meta, so you know what I mean, right? I will show you a picture in a second. So the predictions become an input, and we train another model, right? So we take hopefully the best qualities from all those base models, and we train another model to really predict better. Okay, and this is what it looks like. Okay, and then we'll look at the code. So the input layer here is it's the input data set, and we train those base models, right? And we'll see, in fact, that Gluon uses bagging here. Okay, so each one of those is already a bagged model. Okay, that we concatenate the outputs. Okay, so the predictions, and we train level 2 models. So they are trained with those predictions as input. Okay, trying to predict the correct result. And again, we train a layer 2, okay, second layer of models, okay, and again we'll use bagging for that, okay. And finally we have we built a level 3 weighted average, and this gives us the output. So you can see this is a radically different technique from what we've done before, right? We've trained standalone models, we've used hyperparameter tuning, which eventually leads to standalone models, but here it's completely different. We train lots of models, right, which use boosting internally. We apply bagging in autogluon, and we apply stacking. So the model that we get in the end is a combination of the best models which were trained at level 1 and level 2. And now you're thinking, oh, this is insanely complicated. Why would I want to train all those models? No, I don't want to do that. Okay, so now let's see how we do this in Gluon, okay? Really, really easy, as you'd see. Okay, so let me go full screen here. Let's look at this log again.
Very long.
Okay, yeah, because we train a lot. Yeah. Okay, so feature preparation, we're good. Now, autogluon will fit 2 stack levels. Okay, so what that means is we're going to train lots of bagged models
on L1
at layer 1. We're going to take the best and use them to predict. And all the outputs are concatenated, and this becomes a new training set for layer 2 models. Okay, and eventually we do the same. We pick the best layer 2 models, and we average the results, and that gives us the final layer 3 model. Okay, so we exclude KNN and FastAI just to show you how to do that. And so now we have 10 algos left. Maybe let's zoom in a little bit. Okay, so we fit 10 L1 models because we have 10 different algos. Okay. So we can see we have light GBM XT, light GBM, variations on random forest, cat boost, variations on extra trees, XJ boost, neural net in MXNet, and light GBM large. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to train all those jobs, and we use bagging. Okay, so that means the training set that we have gets chopped. A bunch of chunks go for training, or a bunch of chunks go for validation, and we use different combinations all the time, right? So that's what we do here. And so we see the metric for each of those jobs. Okay, training time, etc. Okay, and it's already very interesting. I think we can see that the best in this round, right? The best model is cat boost, which well, it's called cat boost because it does well on categorical data. And well, okay, this is just one example, but okay, indeed, right? And I think the next best one is probably light GBM, and XJ boost is a little lower, and random forest not doing great. But anyway, it's fine because we're here. We totally accept that some of those models are not going to be great because we're going to train lots of different bags, and we're going to take the best. Okay. And yes, it's a long log because we are bagging 20 times.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So we actually have 20 different subsets for training and validation data. Okay. So it's a small data set. So of course, it goes, you can see training times are in seconds. So that's fine. If you have a bigger data set, maybe 20 bags is too much, right? But anyway, and and we can see, we get over time, we can see we get into the 67s. So these are better models, right?
Yeah.
And we're not going to look at all of them, so because we do this 20 times, so I'm going to scroll rapidly. All these are layer 1 models using our 10 algos on different bags. Okay?
And
we see we have some neural networks. Of course, these are longer, okay, because I'm running on CPU, right? So.
And the UC is improving, right?
And we see, there's got to be some optimization happening because generally it goes up a little bit. Okay, okay, that's iteration 20. Okay, now, completed 20 out of 20 k-fold bagging repeats. So now we've trained, okay, let me show this thing again. We've trained all those base models. I have actually trained 20 bags for each algo. Okay, make sense?
Makes sense.
All right, so now we move into level 2. So we take the best bagged jobs, okay, and we train. So we have a weighted ensemble first, and then we train 10 L2 models. Okay. So we do the same. These are the same algos, except this time we're not using our original data as input. We're using the concatenated outputs from the best L1 bags, right? See? And here we go again. And you can see, we start to see ensembling at work, right? Because immediately we're jumping, in AUC, 0.72. Because now, we have all those cool L1 models that have, different qualities that we combine and train with. Okay, and some are not great. Okay, this one's not good. Okay, that's all right. Okay, and again, we repeat this 20 times. Right, so 20 L2 bags with our 10 algos, so that's 200 jobs, right? All right, so let me scroll again and again and again. All right, 13, 17.
Again and again, yes.
All right. Okay, and so we have completed 20 out of 20 bagging L2 jobs. Okay. And now we take the best, okay, and we build a weighted ensemble. Okay, so we're at the top of that pyramid here. Okay, so we have our 20, we've completed our 20 or 200 bags,
yeah.
L2 jobs. We take the best, okay, and we compute a weighted average, and now we have the final output. Okay, and did you see what we get?
Beautiful.
We get
0.8.
We get 0.8 AUC using this.
Cool.
Which is starting to be cool territory.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah? We start from what? 0.6?
So autopilot did 0.69, which was okay, more than okay. Okay, and now we're actually doing literally nothing. Okay, using default parameters for everything, right? We didn't tweak the data schema. We didn't tweak any of the gluon parameters. We didn't even unleash hyperparameter optimization because, of course, you can do HPO on gluon as well, autogluon. So using really default settings, we have 0.8 AUC, which is pretty good.
On very same datasets, yeah.
On the exact same dataset.
So different techniques.
Okay, and this ran for maybe an hour and a half, something like that. Okay, so that's autogluon, and of course you can print the leaderboard. Okay, so that's obviously hopefully the L3 model is the best. Otherwise, something went wrong. Yeah. We see the total training time. We see prediction time, and I guess the price to pay, because nothing's free, right? You could say, oh, why don't we always use assembly? Well, because now, if you're predicting, so I think by default, we use 25. We'll see that parameter. You can control how many L1 parameters, how many L1 models, excuse me, and how many L2 models you actually built into this pyramid. I think the default is 25. So if we're predicting, we're really predicting 25 times here and 25 times here, plus all the messy stuff in between. So it's going to be a little slower than predicting with a single model. Okay? But for some use cases, it's no big deal, right? If you do batch prediction, you don't care. If it takes 200 milliseconds to predict, you don't care.
Exactly.
Right? And you want maximum accuracy. If you were obsessed with, response time and low latency, and you have to strike a balance between accuracy and prediction time. And this is what those. So you can control this with, by reducing the number of L1 and L2 models. You could exclude some algos. Some algos are, I guess, neural networks are slower to predict with than the tree stuff. Or you can use those presets, right? And best quality probably means tons of parameters everywhere, and just go crazy with just ignore any performance and speed problem. Just predict the best you can. Okay, so find a balance, but and we can see, interestingly, the best L2 bag was a neural net. Yeah, people tell you, oh, neural nets don't work on tabular data. Think again.
Yeah.
And the best L1 was LightGBM. Right. And see, neural networks were not so fantastic on at level 1. They were actually beaten by all the fancy boosting algos.
Yeah.
Now that's the thing. It's like you don't know, right?
Never know.
You don't know. You don't know which algo is going to work best with each dataset. And actually, data scientists spend a lot of time experimenting and trying all those algos all the time. So not only do we do that here, we also automatically combine them in very clever ways. So if you had to do this stuff manually, I mean,
good luck.
Yeah, I'm not excited. Not excited. I'd rather fire this up and look at the results and keep tweaking, right? So lots of interesting stuff here.
Yeah,
lots of interesting stuff, right? Okay, and all right. If you call this fit summary API, you see a little more. So that's the leaderboard again. But yeah, you see. You see a few more things, right? Bagging use. Etc. Model. Yeah, there's a lot of information, right? Yeah, tons of information. Max base models, etc. Tons of stuff. Yeah, go and have fun with that. Okay. So the next thing we probably want to do is look at the models, predict, and evaluate them, and I'll show you how to predict. I guess next week. But you can look at the models here. So there's a summary. I'll show you how to build this. There's an API call for that. Let's take a look. So we see a graph showing us performance versus latency, right? So exactly what we said.
Yeah, and you can see trade-off.
So this is the L3 model here. Obviously, it's the best. But the latency, inference latency is, it could be a little too high. I'm guessing for most people it's totally fine, but some use cases really, really need low latency. So you could say, well, the next best thing is this actually. A little less. But if you could say, well, maybe this one is good enough. Let's close this thing here. Maybe this one is good enough for me, right? Like GBM bag L2. Maybe the accuracy is fine and latency is already almost half. Okay. And you can see these are really not really super interesting, but maybe those three or a good compromise if your latency is a problem for you. Okay. And okay, now we can see all those models here. So if we wanted to predict with our friend weighted ensemble L3, here it is. It's a pickled object, so we can load it and predict with it, and yeah, we'll probably do that in the next episode. Okay. All right. So that's a first look at AutoGluon. Yeah, a more detailed look. We'll keep digging. There's really good stuff here. I would love to try and see what we can do with NLP or computer vision. So okay, 2 more episodes. Maybe we do one of each. I don't know. Let's see if I have time for that. But I'll try. Okay, I'll try to show you the different angles. Okay, so well, I think we're at time. So summary for today. Autopilot, super simple. 1 line, 2 lines of code. 2 lines of code. Just fire up your jobs on managed infrastructure. Scale doesn't matter. Nothing to worry about. And just either get a baseline for all your jobs, or explore your data sets quickly, find the ones that are most promising so that you can keep refining, tweaking with the generated notebooks, etc. And if you want a slightly more involved technique, if you want to spend a little more time, then AutoGluon is very interesting. It has a larger selection of algos, uses ensembling techniques, but bagging, etc., and stacking. But if you there's going to be a little more work on ops, okay, because here it's open source, so there's no infrastructure managed for you. I'm running here on Studio directly in my notebook because it's a small data set. But if you need to scale this, if you want to fire 100 jobs, then you're going to need some sort of tooling to fire up the jobs and not run them in notebooks that could time out or die. And logs need to be saved. So next week we'll look at that, actually how we can run AutoGluon in SageMaker processing, which you all know by now because I've discussed it 622 times. My favorite part of SageMaker, I guess. Running batch jobs, and of course we can install AutoGluon there and fire them up. Okay. Perfect. So we'll look at that. Sego, thank you very much.
Thank you, Julian.
Looking forward to diving into ensembling a little more again and different use cases. I hope you learn a few things, and we'll see you next week. With more episodes. And until then, have a great week. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.